record, we're talking with Phil Greer on April 4th, 1992 for the Assassination Information Center. Phil, tell me where you were on November 22nd, 1963 and how you came to be there.
Okay. That day, my brother and I and another friend, we didn't go to school that day, and our plan that day was to get on the bus down and go downtown. We lived on the east side of Dallas, and really at that time, anytime you did anything as far as getting downtown or anything, it was by way of the city bus. You know, there wasn't any malls like there are now, or any big shops or anything like that. When our family, the way we did it was we went downtown, we got on the bus, waited for the bus at the bus stop, and we went downtown. Well, anyway, that day we were going to get up early and hopefully catch a glimpse of the procession, Kennedy being in downtown Dallas. And we've been downtown a lot of times before. My mom worked downtown, and so we knew all of the streets, we knew all the bus stops, we knew where the buildings were, where some good places were. We knew where to get a good hamburger. We knew a lot of things about downtown because we've been down there a lot of times. So that morning, we, myself, Keith, my brother, and another boy named David Gilbert, we all got together. We got on the bus and we went downtown. And when we were getting close to town, we talked about this before. We talked about, you know, what we were going to do, and hopefully we'd see President Kennedy, or, you know, it was a big deal. And we even told other kids at school and things like that I mean, we were going to get to go. And parents said okay. The idea was to try and get downtown and meet my mom where she was, where she worked. We knew that she was going to be out there somewhere, hopefully doing the same thing. When we got in close to downtown, I remember seeing a lot of people, more than I'd ever seen before in downtown Dallas, other than, you know, rush hour. It was more than that. People on the streets, people everywhere. And so when we were getting close, we felt like there were enough people there that it might be the time for the president to be coming. So we got off the bus several blocks before we were gonna go to the end of town where my mom was. But we got off when we saw the people in anticipation and wanting to get a good spot, and we didn't want to miss the president. We get off the bus, and then after asking some people that it was going to be a while, people were getting places by the curb and lining up and trying to get the best places. We heard that just in talking to people, it was going to be a while before he was there. So we went into this little hamburger grill, short order diner type deal, and it was on the corner of Harwood and Main Street, and it was right across from the what I thought then was the city hall. I just knew that that's where, you know, if you got a ticket, you go in there, or any city business, that's where you went. I knew that was across the street. So we go into the grill, and we got something to eat, and we figured it was getting close as far as the President Kennedy coming, because there were a lot of people then. I mean, they were all the way up to the front of the grill, the windows, and, you know, we knew that it was pretty close. So we hurried up, went outside, and, you know, at the time I was 15, my brother was 13, David was probably 15 or 16, and it was also my brother's birthday, and so, you know, we were all happy, and we knew we were going to see the president. We knew it, you know, and we were going to weasel our way to the front no matter what to see. And we were good at things like that time. So we get out there, and we knew on the side that we were on, and I remember this just like it was yesterday, we knew that it was not a good place. We'd already talked to people. We knew which direction the motorcade was going to come from. So we decided to go on the other side of the street and try and get out on the corner, even if we had to, off the curb in the street. We knew that's what we were going to do. So we get over there, and we just kind of weaseled our way into where the people were, and then there was a car that came. There was a car coming, you know, and everyone was kind of nudging out on the street. And there were a couple of policemen out there, and they were trying to keep everybody back onto the sidewalk. But this car was coming, was like a wagon kind of thing, is the best that I can remember. But it did have on the car that it was Honest Joe's Pawn Shop, and no one knows this, but I went in Honest Joe's Pawn Shop before that. I knew right where it was on Elm Street. I'd been in there. I went with David, this friend of mine, and there was stuff everywhere. I mean, just junk that I'd never seen before, with just everything. The guy would, you know, he really didn't want to talk to us. The guy that was in there at the time, he just told us to get out. But the reason why I'm bringing that up was because this car looked like that. It looked like the pawn shop. I just remember it being writing all over it, you know, and just stuff all over it. And I'd seen the car before at the pawn shop, you know. But anyway, this was the car that came first, and this was the car that got everybody's attention and thinking that the motorcade was coming. And this guy in this car was just going all over the street, you know, and honking his horn and things like this. Well, anyway, so that everybody gets back up on the curb, and, you know, that wasn't it. And then, finally, I believe a motorcycle came first, or a couple of motorcycles. But I really didn't pay any attention to that. I wanted to see, I knew that it'd probably be some kind of long black car or something just really unbelievable that I've never seen before. By that time, we'd already weaseled our way all the way out to the front of the corner, and we were on the corner. Catty corner to us was the police building or the city building. We were catty corner from that building. And so we were already out on the front then, and then we really saw that it was coming, and here comes, you know, the president. And I just remember it being a nice looking, really black, long car. And we were on the corner that we could see down Harwood and also see down Elm Street. I mean, we were on the very corner. And we were all the way out in front. There was no one in front of us at all. And we were on the corner, and we looked to our left, and here comes the car. The president comes around the corner, and it was such a great position because the car went around the corner really slow. It wasn't like whipping around a corner. It went really slow. And the president and Mrs. Kennedy were looking right over at us. I mean, perfect. I mean, it would be like me looking at you right now. And I remember it so well because the Mrs. Kennedy was looking, you know, and she looked over where we were, you know, and they were just kind of waving like this. And I remember just looking at her both at the same time. And I remember her looking so beautiful. I mean, I just thought it was more than Mrs. Kennedy. I thought it was like a fairy tale, or the most beautiful model I'd ever seen, or a movie star, or something. I just remember her just looking immaculate. And she had on a round-looking hat. I just remember it, and her hair, even though they were in the convertible, her hair seemed to be perfect on her face. And at the same time, in the same direction, President Kennedy looked over there, and I'd never, when in seeing him on TV and what I had seen, and that, I remember looking at him. He's looking at us. And I'm thinking I'm the one he's looking at, but he's looking in our direction. But I remember him looking, I didn't realize that a man that I thought was young, I'm comparing him to my father, had so much grayish looking hair. You know, I remember his hair being, and again, his hair almost looked perfect. Like he had a little wisp, you know, a little quiff right here. But I was that close I could see all that. It was really close. Unbelievable close. Well, I was always at that time, and when I'm 15, my brother's 13, we were always putting my brother up to things. And he always got caught doing everything. And I never got caught doing anything. That's just the way it was. But at this time, I figured he'd be the one. If anyone was going to get out close to the car or the closest, it was going to be him. And, you know, and that's what he's thinking too. Keith, we're all three together. I just got through I'm seeing the Kennedys. This is all at one multi-second time. Keith does reach out and goes past. There was a motorcycle beside the car, and I can't remember if it was in front. Between that, Keith and the car's on the turn, Keith reaches out, and I mean, he could have actually touched the car. We were that far out in the street. He reaches out, and a hand from somewhere, whether it was on that car or the car behind or somebody walking or whatever, pushes his hand back. You know, he's only a kid really, but here's somebody I just remember a dark arm, a dark coat, dark suit, dark something, pushing his arm back. I wasn't paying attention to that except that, I was looking at the Kennedys, but I do remember that happening. And then immediately after that, the car goes around the turn, and we're going, boy, we were so close, we saw him. I'm thinking that. We just were right there, seeing the President of the United States. I've never seen anything like that. And we're still following the car, looking around, and all of a sudden, from behind us, a man, full speed, running. Not jogging, track running, that type running, comes running past, and he's running up to where the car is. He's catching up to the car. And he's up with the car, and then one of these guys jumps off and just absolutely levels this guy, and he falls over into some people. You know, by that time, the crowd behind us is all coming out in the streets just trying to catch a glimpse of the car going away. And I left that at that point thinking, what an unbelievable experience. I just saw really close, touchable close, it seemed like, the President of the United States and the First Lady. And in that car, now I know who was in that car other than the President. I could not tell you who else was in that car. I didn't see anybody else except those two people. That's the only thing I was toned in on. That was it, those two people. So,
Phil, because of the proximity of the President to you and the slow speed of the motorcade, did it ever occur to you in those moments, any thoughts for his safety?
Well, because of being just involved with that moment, I really wasn't thinking about that at that moment. But at that time, when I was growing up, I always thought about the normal things, I guess, kids think about, except I had probably too much freedom in some things. As an example, I watched every James Bond movie at that time. I snuck off to movies where I was interested in weapons and gangster movies or anything that I felt like was mysterious or anything like that. Now, David, this friend of mine that was with us, we did talk about people hanging off of buildings and jumping out in front of cars, and things like that. We did talk about that. We didn't. When I did not think about it right at that point, but it was something we did talk about. We knew, and especially after being that close. When we thought about it.
Okay, now the presidents left.
Mhm. We felt like, I particularly remember this, I felt like I had just seen the something unbelievable, the best thing that I've ever seen, and we were all three of us were all kidding around, and we were gonna, we had the rest of the day. We knew we couldn't make it down to my mom, because, the motorcade had already gone by, and so we were just gonna, do something downtown and, just take our time before we went home. What we did was we went back down Harwood Street towards Elm Street. And for some reason, we thought it'd be a good idea. At the time, the tallest building in Dallas was the Southern Life Building. And they had an observation tower up on the top. And we thought it'd be fun, because we had the rest of the day, we thought it'd be fun to go up there. And just, not for any reason, just to go up there and look, it was a beautiful day at that time, at that point. So we went up there. We walked over to the Southern Life Building, and we went up to the of the observation deck. I'm not sure how many floors it was, but it was the tallest building at that time. When we went up on that building, you went up the elevator, and it was outside. There was big bar fence, and I remember this because we went outside, and they had these telescopes up there, and we put a 10 cents or whatever it was in at that time, and we were looking at that, but there were a lot. I remember looking down, not in the telescope, just looking and hearing. There were a lot of sirens going off, a lot of just cars going fast, police cars, and just a lot of sirens. You could hear it, really visible, up there. And then someone came out on the observation deck and said that the president had been shot. And I couldn't believe that. We just saw it. I couldn't believe it. We went back inside, and there was a snack counter, a bar snack counter inside there, and they had the TV on above it, and Walter Cronkite was on television, and saying that the president had been shot. And that was the first time that I knew. And it was it was hard for me to believe. We just left it. We just saw it.
What were your, when you got back together with your family and your brother after your paper news, and you were all watching TV, what were your feelings over the course of those next 4 days and the way that the events developed?
I personally kept going back just to that 2 seconds, 3 seconds that I saw them. That's what I kept going back to. That's what I still go back to. And how it's just, it just snowballed and got more complicated from just that innocent piece of time right there, and how bad I felt about all of that. And then to be sitting there on Sunday morning and see, we were watching TV and see, Harvey Oswald get assassinated, really. And then to see the funeral, and the case on, and just see all of that, and it be on television. And to realize that just a few hours before that, it was a happy deal, a happy time. It was all smiles and fun. That's what I think about. How things can change so quickly, get so complicated, and not really understand why or for what reason. that's my thought on that period of time.
Did you have any thoughts about this assassin, Oswald, a few days after Melinda's killing? Did you believe that at the time?
When I didn't understand, and I still, I mean, I've read some things about the assassination, I've seen movies, and I've seen things, but I never have understood. I think the thing, and this bothered me too, because at the time I remember I was also heard about then, because as a family we always talked about this, you know, a policeman getting hurt, a policeman being shot, or any public official or anything like that. But I never did come to grips with it. I never did understand the policeman getting shot, Tippit. I never did get that connection. I never did understand why he was shot. I never did. I don't understand that, but the reason why I'm thinking about that is because at the time I remember feeling sorry, you know, for his family, you know, and I think he had a child or what, and I just remember feeling sorry that, you know, somebody was going to have a dad, not have a dad, you know, and the Kennedys weren't going to have a dad. And I didn't feel that way about Oswald. But then I also had some sad feelings because he didn't get a chance to say what he thought, you know, or say what he thought happened.
Did you believe he was the president's assassin up to the time he was murdered, in those intervening 3 or 4 days?
At that age, and what I was thinking was, I was thinking of it more probably pragmatic. I was thinking, he needed to speak more. He didn't get a chance to go through a trial, to go through and be thoroughly questioned. You know, I didn't really have a feeling one way or the other, you know, for Oswald.
What were your feelings when the Warren Commission report came out?
Well, I was really disappointed in the Warren Commission because I felt like different things weren't investigated enough. I felt like that, you know, I don't know anything about weapons. I don't know anything about how they shoot or, you know, or what, other than, you know, Boy Scout camp and doing BB guns or 22s or something like that. But I mean, it doesn't take much sense to figure out that it would be pretty difficult for somebody to fire 3 shots, never mind 4 shots, out of a rifle, you know, and put the bolt in and put the bullet in and all that. And I do remember at 15 years old that that didn't seem logical.
We're almost 30 years later now, and a lot has happened in between. I'm sure you've read, heard things. What are your feelings now about it?
You know, it's sort of emotional actually. I don't want to get or steal any of my mom's thunder on what she said about being America. But if you had to come up with something, that's probably what it should be. As far as just the simple reason.
Well, you can say it independent of what your mother said. Why do you feel it's important that we continue to make an effort to find out what happened that day completely? Why?
think if an office such as the presidency of the United States can be, if it can be eliminated the way that was at that particular time, that's a travesty. We're talking about the most, the strongest country in the world, and has been for some time. A leader in the world. Other countries look to us for leadership in every way that's imaginable. And if a group of people, or even one person, can do something in the way that was done in assassinating the president, every effort should be made to find out what really happened on that. And no government entity, no group, no one person should be immune from getting to the bottom of that. It's embarrassing. And it's important for my children and their children just to know what happened and not leave it for the next generation when we're gone, or when my folks are gone and their folks are gone, to just have a dead end.
Do you think Lee Harvey Oswald killed?
No. No. I don't think one man, the most intelligent person that you could come up with, could not come up with that chain of events. You know, that sequence, those 3 or 4 days there. It's just impossible. You could not do that alone. Just as you know, my mom said that people came in and were looking in the building, or accidentally saw something or whatever. One person could not do that. There's no way. Not with that many people witnessing that. Impossible.
Okay. Keith, would you come over here? I heard that. You'll be happy when we have this. It's real obvious that for both of you that was a very emotional moment at 13 and 15 years old. A very magical moment in your life that not only have you not forgotten, but something that meant an awful lot to you at the moment. And then a few minutes later, everything changed. Part of the magic of Kennedy was what the promise might have been, that it wasn't to be. Tell me a little bit about the anger that you must have felt that somebody or something killed this man and took this promise away from you. Tell me a little bit about that anger that hurt.
I think I was more angry that it happened in Dallas. I think that it's like people started blaming Dallas, and I think that that made you more angry than anything. Of course, we were angry that the president was killed, but I thought that you're right. The promise, the future that Kennedy had planned, we'll never see that. And I think that makes me angry. think that, especially now, 30 years later, we find out that Kennedy was planning to pull us out of Vietnam. And I, having been drafted and lost a lot of friends in Vietnam, that makes me angry. That makes me real angry.
I just feel like, especially at that time, there were so many things that were changes in the wings, and there were a lot of things going on in the country, and I just remember it seemed like something was coming up every day on the news of something with the Soviet Union, or with Cuba. It was on our level, especially because of being in school and living here in the South, as far as having to be in school and be prepared for a nuclear attack. When you're trying to get that across to us at that time, to kids, and really think about the way that it was coming across then, the world could be destroyed, and there would be no more people. Not, your pet dying or your favorite plant dying, but there's no more people. I mean, it was very real, when you're in school, and part of your curriculum or what you're doing on a weekly basis was practicing bending over and and putting your head down and things like that. And for all those reasons, I just felt real disturbed. I felt even more uneasy, with that happening to Kennedy. And again, just like my brother said, being in our hometown, it was upsetting.
You realize what had happened in the next few days when it finally sank in? You were mad, angry.
Yeah, I was angry.
I think we were angry for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.